Hello friends, welcome or welcome back to the channel. I hope you're well. Today I'm joining you in my least favorite article of clothing to discuss my two least favorite topics in the world, cleaning and organizing. Welcome. I have a confession to make. I generally love the way my home looks in terms of how it's styled, but I am not a person that is naturally organized. I am a bit of a slob, and if left to my own devices, my home would gear toward entropy and chaos. Recently, I've been becoming really overwhelmed with the amount of stuff I have in my home, and it's very much of a first world problem, right? I have a lot of stuff. I have too much stuff. I have too many hobbies. Oh my god, poor you. But it is becoming kind of an issue for me, and on the one hand, it is being physically overwhelmed by the amount of stuff and just kind of like the ease of getting things that I need day to day. And then it's the growing frustration with myself for not being able to easily resolve those issues, being able to easily come up with organizational techniques and storage solutions that are better for me than what I'm working with now. So now not only are you surrounded by junk and frustrated with that, but you're frustrated with yourself for not being able to resolve your problems. Huzzah. If you're a person like me, a person that one has a lot of stuff in a small space, and two, deals with, like ADHD brain and just really has a hard time organizing, like not just because you're lazy and like bullshitting yourself, but like an actual hard time getting into the process of getting organized and staying organized, which is the real problem. I hope that this video is helpful because I have the same issues and I have been working overtime to really resolve some of these issues, both for myself and for my clients. So in today's video, I'm going to share with you the one tip that you can implement in your space today that's going to help you get a hold on visual clutter, decreasing that visual clutter, which is going to open up a little bit of your mind and kind of reduce that overwhelm. I'm also going to share with you how I plan organizational projects. Having a project plan, taking the time to get yourself organized, to actually organize your space. It may seem like an unnecessary, redundant step, but I think for a lot of us, it's going to be something that's really, really beneficial. So before we talk about the project plan, I want to talk about this one tip that you can implement today that's really going to help start reducing the amount of visual clutter that you have in your space. And it's probably a tip that you've heard before, and it's as simple as when you are done using something, don't put it down, put it away, put it back in the place that it belongs, in the closet, in a storage bin, in a cabinet, in a drawer. Don't just leave your things lying around. Put them away. So implementing this step requires a little bit of setup, right? Because if you're putting things away, you have to have an away for those things to go to. Everything in your house should have a home so that when you're done using it, you can put the thing in the home. Now, for most of the stuff that we have in our space, most of it already has a home that we're just not utilizing, right? I will put stuff on the chair in my office, just drape clothes on that chair instead of putting them in the closet, which is literally right next to that chair. A lot of the stuff that we have in our home already has a home, and we just need to get into the habit and practice of putting things away into that home when we're done using them. But this is also going to force us to be really cognizant of when we're bringing things into our home, whether or not we're going to be able to accommodate them, whether or not we're going to be able to create a space to store them appropriately. I have had several instances in the past where I've bought stuff on Amazon and literally did not have anywhere to put, just didn't think of it and literally have had to have stuff just sit on my dining table for days and weeks until I could figure out what can I get rid of so that I can store this in a closet or store this underneath the cabinet or something. And what if I wanted to use my dining table? Now I'm having to do this shuffle and getting overwhelmed every time I walk into the kitchen and seeing just junk on the dining room table because I didn't plan ahead. With a little setup to get you running in terms of space planning and figuring out where things are going to live, this is the easiest tip for you to adopt for your day-to-day. This is also something that could be really good to bring your kids into if you have kids. Getting them into the habit of putting their clothes and their toys away is definitely going to be something that will probably reduce your stress and anxiety if that's a task that you're usually tasked with. So now that we talked about that tool of getting in the habit of putting things away, which is going to help us with just like the visual clutter in our space daily, we can talk about organizing a project plan to really thoroughly declutter our space. Because if you're anything like me, putting things away day to day is going to be a significant benefit to you. But if you've got a lot of hobbies and a bunch of stuff that you're storing and you live in a small space, eventually you are gonna have to declutter some stuff to make room for other things, or just like for the sake of your own sanity. And I think it's really important to approach organizational projects with the right mindset, because they can be really overwhelming, especially if you have a lot of stuff to declutter, if you have a lot of space, if you've got a lot of other people in your house that you have to deal with. So let me know in the comments if this scenario sounds familiar with you. You are all of a sudden one day just completely overwhelmed with the mess and disorganization and the amount of like junk and clutter that you're surrounded by, and you haphazardly start a decluttering project where you've got your trash bag and you've got a box for your donatable goods, and you're just pulling everything out of the closets and out of your drawers and out of cabinets. You're making piles everywhere. You've got a lot of high energy going at the start of this project. You feel really like pumped to get organized. And then as the day wears on, you kind of start to lose a little bit of steam. You're kind of getting decision fatigue about things that you want to stay, things that need to go. You're getting tired, maybe a little cranky and hungry. And soon you've got a ton of stuff just strewn all about. You're overwhelmed, and now you might spend, a day or two, maybe even more than that, walking around disheveled piles of stuff that you've pulled out of your closets, thinking that you're going to be able to take on this organizational project in one day. And now it's a multi-day project. You had to get your house disorganized before you can get it organized, and you're stuck in a state of even worse chaos and confusion and overwhelmed than before. Now, this is not going to ring true to everyone. There are some people who can just like go through and like knock out major organizational projects and cleaning projects in a day. That's just not how my brain works. And that is how typically I have approached organizational projects in the past, with that kind of like haphazard high energy gusto that always leads to failure and disappointment and things taking longer than they need to and being more complicated than they need. So at the top of this year, when I started feeling super overwhelmed, when I was opening cabinets and things were falling out and hitting me on the head, instead of grabbing my trash bag and my Goodwill box, I took a step back and I grabbed a pen and a piece of paper, and I thought about really what I wanted to accomplish in organizing my space, and how I wanted to organize my space, and how I wanted to do that in a way that felt realistic and frankly like not a painful process for me. So I'm going to walk you through kind of like some of my project plan and goals for organizing my space. Your project plan for organizing your space is going to be different depending on the size of your space, the amount of stuff that you have stored in your space, if you have other people that live with you, a whole bunch of other factors. I really do want to encourage you to be kind of thoughtful and intentional about your space and like what you want your space to look like, how you want your space to feel, how you want to interact with your space, the specific trouble points that you're dealing with in your space that you'd like to resolve. So what are my particular goals for my organizational project? I have 3 main goals when it comes to what I want to accomplish in decluttering, organizing, and cleaning my space. My first goal is my most pragmatic, in that I'm literally highlighting the areas in my home that I'm looking to organize. Having a project plan allows you to focus on what you want to focus on, but it also gives you permission to ignore things that are outside of your project plan, which is definitely something that I've found to be really helpful as a person that deals with overwhelm. So the 6 categories in my home that I want to tackle are clothing, shoes, and jewelry. Second is health and beauty. Third is dishware, pots, pans, and kitchen accessories. Fourth is plant accessories, hobby items, and art tools. This is just literally all of the accessories from all of my different major hobbies that I've stuck with for the last couple years. Fifth is bedding and textiles. And sixth is office and paper. The second goal I have with completing this cleaning, decluttering, and organizing project is to complete it with ease, which might sound kind of like broad and woo-woo, and that's intentional and kind of incorporates a few things. I've already mentioned that in the past I have taken on decluttering and organizational projects in my space a little bit haphazardly and gotten very overwhelmed by them. I don't think that decluttering and organizing my space needs to be something that is stressful, and so I have the explicit goal in this project to ensure that it's not. So how am I realistically making this a project that I'm completing with ease? The first step we're kind of already in the process of reviewing, and that is having a goal-oriented project plan that's writing things down, that's keeping organized, that's putting the dates of when I'm actually going to tackle specific areas that I'm organizing, putting that on my calendar, and being really purposeful in the kind of administration behind this project. The second component of completing this project with ease is breaking up the actual organizational, decluttering, cleaning tasks into smaller, manageable projects that I can complete over a period of time. I'm gonna have on the screen an image showing how I broke down the 6 categories of things in my house that needed to be decluttered into the kind of like functional spaces where those things live, and how I was going to tackle organizing each of those spaces. There's 13 spaces in total, and I am tackling 2 spaces per week, which means it's going to take me more than a month and a half, almost 2 months, to get through every functional space. I know that cleaning, decluttering certain areas of my home are more taxing. I wanted to be cognizant of breaking down these areas of, where I'm organizing in a way that made sense. In the past, when I've tried to organize my closet area, I've tackled the entire closet as one unit. So both the main closet area where my clothes live, the storage area above my closet where I have a lot of tools, a lot of like art and decor, a lot of like stuff that I have for Christmas. And I also would tackle the cabinet above my work desk, which I have a ton of beauty supplies as well as office stuff, a lot of paperwork that probably needed to be shredded versus just put in a larger folder and reorganized with other paperwork that I no longer need. Taking the time to acknowledge and appreciate that I'm probably going to be able to more quickly run through cleaning out expired makeup and beauty supplies versus paperwork. Also having an appreciation of I'm not considering an area decluttered until the stuff is not just out of my house, but it's been like dispositioned to wherever it needs to go. So taking all my clothes out of the closet and putting them in a box that's destined for Goodwill, that's not me being finished organizing that space. Having the box in my car on the way to Goodwill is not me being completed in organizing that space. It's only after the items have been dropped off at the Goodwill that I'm considering a space to be completely decluttered. And so being cognizant of thinking about organizing that way, especially because I know that I am the person that will have stuff in the back of my car for months just not having driven past the Goodwill. That was another purposeful part of my project plan. My original goal for clothes, shoes, and handbags was to declutter and process everything all at once. And I probably could because I don't have that many clothes, I don't have that many shoes, I'm not very sentimental about any of those items, but I do have a really large designer handbag collection, and I wanted to take the time to be able to go through my handbags, figure out what I wanted, kind of get an appraisal, like do some research on the value of my bags, take some photos, figure out if I wanted to sell them myself or consign them, which I eventually did, and it was the worst decision of my life. And I'm glad that I wasn't expecting myself to do all of that on the same day that I was going through all of my drawers, all of the closet, all of the calaps. It just wouldn't have made sense. But it's something that I would have attempted to do in the past and then gotten super overwhelmed and just annoyed with myself, and then I would have clothes and handbags and stuff just strewn about all willy-nilly. There's no need for it. And with my plan and my getting organized and setting myself up for success, it didn't come to that in organizing these spaces this time around. So my third and final explicit goal for this organizational project is to organize the remaining items in an efficient yet visually pleasing manner. And the visually pleasing is important because there's a difference in efficient storage and aesthetic storage. Let's say that. I am going for a balance. I have to be relatively efficient with my storage because I live in a small space. I don't have the freedom to just like store things how I'd want. So I have to be smart at the end of the day. But there definitely are areas that I am going to be explicitly going for the aesthetic option when it comes to storage versus the option that would be like maybe cheaper or more efficient or like more usable, and that is a choice. It's a choice that I'm making. I don't know if I mentioned this at the top. This has been a really drastic and aggressive decluttering mission that I'm going on because I've been just really overwhelmed by stuff and just stuff that I don't need, that I don't want. I'm using this time while I'm decluttering and organizing to kind of like appreciate my space, appreciate how I interact with my space, figure out, you know, what are the items that I'm using day after day? Where would it make sense for certain things to live so that it's like more convenient for me to access? Is there something that I am consistently like reaching up to grab that would make more sense being put down below somewhere? Really kind of paying attention and documenting all of this in our project plan so that when we get to the end of the decluttering phase and we're now in the storage and efficiency building phase, that I kind of know where I want to go in terms of moving things around or what kind of storage solutions might be best. And also knowing that I want things to look a certain way is going to dictate some of my decisions in that area as well. I'll say it's like 60-40. I want my space to be like 60% efficient to use and like maybe 40% visually aesthetic. And you can definitely have an efficient space that is nice to look at, but I definitely do think if you are organizing your space or planning your space, styling your space specifically with the intent to have it look a certain way, it's like I'm going to be seasonings girl. I'm gonna have all of my seasonings in cute little matchy jars in my cabinet so that when I open my cabinet, everything is nice in like, you know, stadium seating with the same labels, and that is what I'm going for. That's what I want to go for. That's going to take up more space in my cabinet. That's going to require me to do some planning when I'm in the like rebuilding phase. I've already decluttered my kitchen, which feels so good to just like have less stuff. I had so many like expired packets of like just randomness in there. But when I go back now to organize my space, to build in new storage solutions that are hopefully going to be just working a lot better for me, I know that I'm going in with the goal of having things look a certain way, and that's definitely something that is helpful to know about yourself while you're planning your organizational projects. In general, do I think a trip over to like the Amazon storage solution section is necessary after a good declutter? No, not necessarily. But I also do want to encourage that if you're going to take the time to like plan out decluttering and organizing your home and, you know, just having less stuff, that you might want to also take the time to plan how you're going to efficiently store the stuff that you have left after you're done with your organizational projects. Maybe you do need drawer dividers. Maybe you need a lazy Susan for your cabinet. Maybe you're a big gift giver and, you know, purchasing one of those like over the door hanging things to store all of your wrapping paper and gift bags and stuff. Maybe that would be something that would be beneficial to you after you've gone through your space and decluttered and realized like this is stuff that I want to have in my home. This is stuff that I engage with and I use a lot. What is the best way that I'm going to be able to store this? So that's it, folks. This is some of my thoughts on organizing. This video is kind of like all over the place. Hopefully I will be able to clean it up and post, but I just was trying to pull together all of my thoughts in maybe a coherent way that will help somebody out there that's trying to get organized to organize their home. I would love to know what other kind of tips and tricks you guys use either day to day or like quarterly, annually, whatever, to maintain your space, to kind of take control of the clutter, the chaos in your space. I especially love anyone who has kids to leave tips down below, because I literally don't know how people that have kids like keep their houses organized. Even Marie Kondo came out recently and was like, I had kids and I gave up. But it's definitely possible to maintain a clean and organized home. It's just work. For some people it's more work than others, but it's possible. I hope that some of these tips in how I'm organizing my space might be a useful place for some of you to start. If this was helpful in any way, I would love if you would like the video and let the YouTube algorithm know that you enjoyed it. And if you made it this far, you might as well subscribe to the channel. You're the real MVP, by the way. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you're all well. Stay safe out there. This dress is going to the Goodwill, by the way. I'm getting rid of it. This is absolutely horrible.